Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Old Man Energy. I'm your host, Flint Anderson, and with us today is a special guest. He's actually been with us before. We were just talking about it. It's been a couple years. Dustin Lunde. Dustin, welcome.
What is up, Flint? How are you, brother?
I am doing well. I still sound like I'm drowning, but I am feeling much better. So the last few weeks of recordings have been kind of interesting. But hey, we got to get that message out there. Nobody won't do itself.
That's right. We're glad you're feeling better.
I appreciate that, brother. Listen, give us another intro. Remind the audience out there who you are and what you do and all that fancy stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for having me. First and foremost, excited to be back. Who I am Dustin Lunde. I am a husband, father, foodie, fitness enthusiast. I'm also hugely in the digital marketing space, but specifically I like to refer to us as kind of like growth as a service, and to not have that negative kind of connotation that comes with marketing companies. Outside of that, not a dual business owner. At this point in my life, I went a different direction earlier this year and got out of one entirely. It just was not serving me in the way that I wanted it to. Income was nice, but other than that, it just didn't make a lot of sense. And so hugely just focused on one thing right now, which is the agency itself. And other than that, I've got an amazing son, 2 bonus kids, as I call them, Liliana and Alex. Alex is actually on a tour right now with the military, so he's doing his thing. Super grateful for him and all those guys and gals do. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
All right. That's when we both talked, we both owned multiple businesses. I still do. Which business did you get rid of? You don't have to say the name of it, but just what kind of business was it, and how was it not serving your purpose?
So got out of the kids entertainment niche that we were in. So it was a party rental company, party and event rentals, served about 5 to 6 families and events a year. So we were doing a lot of really cool stuff, but one of the downsides of that space is people need you around holidays and weekends. That's when you're the busiest. And because I've got another company in Best Life Group where I've got a Monday through Friday gig here, which, to be completely truthful, we all know that own businesses that it's never just Monday through Friday, although those are the dedicated work hours. I just was chained to work all the time, and was talking to a good friend and mentor at one point about what he does, which is kind of in this like transformational life coaching space. And I was just like, brother, like, share with me, what does a success or a win look like with working with a guy like you? And he's like, a lot of times people sell a business, get into more like humanitarian type work, open up a nonprofit, something like that. But the whole goal is to do less in order to be more fulfilled. And when I first heard that message, I was like, you're absolutely crazy. I've been told I need to have 5 businesses in order to be fulfilled. So I'm going to keep going down that road. And then it was just a chain of, not great life events that kind of had me on my knees at one point. And I was just like, God, like, there's a different way. I know there is. And please help, bring that to light. And beginning of this year, through a terrible business partnership that just was not going well, and some other life events, I was like, I think my sign is right in front of me. I need to unload this thing and just focus on the one thing that really brings some positivity and impact and fulfillment in my life, and that's the direction I went.
Very nice, very nice. Do you mind sharing with us how old you are?
39. Oh no, 38. God, I almost added a year to myself.
38. You're starting to sound a little bit like an old man.
I know. And actually, when you invited me on this the first time, I was like, man, is this a sign that I'm finally over this metaphorical hill that I am an old man now too?
Yeah, we're redefining what old man energy means. It means you don't have to give up. I know one of the more taglines I've been using lately is life begins at 50. And I straight up stole that from a movie, which ironically enough has resurged in popularity here lately.
Okay.
But one of the things that you described, I talked about last week in depth because it's really been on my heart lately. And it's funny. I think we had similar conversation last time like this. We were operating in similar mental spaces. Success doesn't look the same to everybody. No. And the more you try and make a cookie cutter version out of it and say, okay, everybody, this is what success is, A, B, C, and D, the more people you start alienating, or worse, people believe you and buy into it and realize they're miserable. Either way, you lose credibility by trying to teach them to be something they're not. Right. Sometimes sometimes people just being broke and not having to owe anybody money is a goal, and that's their dream because they've never had it before. And sometimes it's a small house and it's just peace and quiet. I know for me personally, freedom has always meant more than anything else.
Yeah.
Now I own several businesses, but my businesses are structured in a way that I have a lot of freedom during the day because that's what's been important to me, and I will die on that hill
Yep.
to put that in perspective. But no, I'm excited for you. I think this chapter is going to be good. Now, have you spent time describing what your life looks like for yourself in the future now that you just have one business?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. I don't know if I've actually said, this is what I want it to be in a very structured way in my head, but I do know that I'm really leaning into these three pillars right now, which are this idea of impact, fulfillment, and great relationships. That has been the three things that I've really been leaning into. And then ultimately, revenue comes from that. But that's not the North Star like it had been for me for so many years. I think, as we approached a new year every year, as I started looking back at some of my goals and everything, it was always very hustle culture-esque. And it always was something to do with money, something to do with travel. And as I kept looking at all those things, I'm like, they look cute and the world would say that's successful. But at the end of the day, like every time I hit one of these goals, I don't feel fulfilled at all. In fact, I think a lot of times you get to the top of that ladder and you just go, okay. And what happens? You look out and you find another one that you've got to climb. And I just felt like I was in this hamster wheel all the time. So I have really been wanting to just focus on presence as well, be where I'm at versus just, being in our head all the time. And so I think time freedom is something that's also been very important to me. Building a business that I am not shackled to, one that actually allows me and affords me the opportunity to do a lot of the things that fill me back up. And even last week, I didn't realize that this was a sign of wealth in the moment, but I was in this mastermind and I turned the camera off and the audio, and I just said, "Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I'm here to be present, but I'm getting a tattoo right now, and Lord knows y'all don't want to see what weird angle I'm laying down in and whatnot." So they all kind of laughed and they were like, "Hell yeah!" And they were like, "That right there is some true time freedom wealth to let the business continue to do its thing. You go do something that you really enjoy, and also get to be present in this." And so those are the things right now that I'm really focused on, which again is just that impact, fulfillment, and relationships.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you operate and we run these businesses and we spend so much time chasing these dreams and these goals, and we look around and we're like, oh, wait a minute. What the heck? Why are these people treating me like peers? I'm working up here and I'm trying. Oh, I've either outworked them, I'm doing more than, or holy crap, not only do I belong at this table, I need to be getting ready for the next one. It's kind of shocking
Yeah.
sometimes. One thing that I'm going to encourage you to do, and I encourage all of my executive clients to do this because I do a lot of coaching with people that are in transition, whether they're getting ready to retire, they've built their business, they're getting ready to move on, or they're sick of the grind set, which is what you just described, and they're ready to transition out of their job, their corporate job, or whatever it is, to having more freedom and time. And the number one most powerful tool that you can do for yourself is sit down, and when you have your time in the day of you do your reflection, just write down what your ideal day looks like. Just write down what it looks like, because it helps you focus on it. All of your goals can come from that, because I know I do this personally. Mine usually starts out on a deck overlooking some water somewhere. I want it to be a lake or a river. Probably could be a pool. I would be okay. I just like the water. And it goes from there. But man, that just give yourself something, especially if you're to the point in life where you're looking for that peace. So that brings me to another question though, because you just spent a long time describing how you've been minimalizing and simplifying and making things much easier for yourself. And by easier, I just mean not as many irons in the fire. I don't mean you're working any less hard. I don't mean any insult on that. But you also just recently finished 70 again.
Yeah. For the sixth time. And it's so funny. I had a question asked to me at a retreat a month ago. So right in the middle of it. And it said, what are you confusing for something that is fulfilling that is actually just familiar? And I was just like, oh shit. And immediately I wrote down 75 hard. And so one of the guys there was like, sir, are you going to eat a cupcake? And I said, absolutely not. But yeah, just
how many times did it take you before it just became a part of who you were?
I honestly, and like Andy wouldn't love hearing this because the whole goal is that you do the thing and then it becomes a part of who you are. For me, so much so, I really enjoy doing it and do it generally 1 or 2 times a year. But something that I had this kind of aha moment the other day was that the goal is not the goal, which is finishing it. The goal is that it's just supposed to be the North Star. And this is something that we need to maintain, consistently in our life and have a good relationship with it. And it wasn't until kind of that aha moment last week where I was just like, man, like this is just something that needs to, in much respect, be a constant, but also have the ability to give myself some grace. And if I want to lean into that time freedom and those special moments with my family and just be where I'm at, that I don't have to check off all these boxes every single day in order to be fulfilled.
That's good. That realization, I believe, usually comes around 2 or 3, but hell, some of us are stubborn, so it takes us a few more times than that.
Correct.
I recently started doing it again, not because I have any desire to do it again. It is no longer a challenge for me. I live my life, and especially since I quit drinking, it's not hard for me. I can
Right.
walk through 75 hard because I've integrated it into my personality and who I am. I mean, not my personality, but my daily routine. But I'm doing it now to prove a point as part of a bigger picture and program that I've put together and that we're slowly promoting. And I want that to be a piece of it to show intent. The other thing is that this whole program that we've put together and that we're working through is taking away a lot of my freedom, but it's sacrificing that freedom for the short term to have a long-term win, success, and goal, and something that it can really show a lot of different people. So everybody that does 75 hard, I think, does it for a different reason. But I've
Yeah.
been where you are with that mindset of, I don't need to check the boxes.
Right.
I already work out twice a day as a general rule. I drink my gallon of water. I read all the time. I mean, the habits are there. I think this is round 7 or 9 for me or something. And you're right. I genuinely enjoy it. I always feel good when I'm done with it.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like day 75 and then day 76 are not that drastically different from one another.
Nope, they sure were not.
So I was it as big of a challenge this time, or it doesn't sound like it as it has been in the past?
No, honestly, it was the most enjoyable round, other than a couple of small injuries that I ever had. Interestingly enough, the first few times that I did it, it was this constant pursuit of every day I had to be at least 1% better. I had to, go on a little bit longer walk. I had to make sure I had a PR every single day. I had to go to the gym every day. And the last time that I had completed it prior to this, I remember a coach of mine at the time had shared with me, he was like, man, like, I love all these successes that you're getting, but you're not a young man anymore. Like your body does need to rest and recover. And I would go, well, yeah, Nick, but I cold plunge every day. And he's like, cold plunging every day is actually not good for you with the amount of stress that you put on yourself at the gym anyway. And he goes, and what also is not good for you is to cold plunge every day for another 30 seconds longer than the day before. He's like, 7 minutes in there has diminishing return, I promise you. And so, interestingly enough, because I'm very stubborn, I did not listen. And I went right into phase 1. And in phase 1, I told myself that I'm going to work out one more time. So I went to 3 days. And then I have to do a minimum of 5 minutes of cold plunging. And then I was going to read like 10 more pages. And I hated it. It was hell because I had to have so much structure on top of what already was a really structured day. And I'll never forget, I got finished with the second workout on like day 21 and just laid the fuck down in the driveway and felt like I'd been hit by a truck. And I was just like, I don't think I can continue this anymore. And I was so mad at myself. And it was just like, man, that is not the goal here. The goal is to enjoy this process and with some respect, go through a little bit of hell. But, it got to the point where I really had like disdain for it versus enjoying it, and was just putting a lot of like external negative stressors on myself. And so of course my body broke down, and my coach was just like, brother, like, I told you this was going to happen. He's like, you're not going to like what I'm going to say next. And I was like, what's that? He goes, we're going to deload for a week. And I was just like, oh my God, you mean we're not going to work out for a week? And he was like, correct, we are not working out for a week. And so I went through that. But yeah, this time around I took a lot of those stressors off of myself. If there was a day in which time got away from me a little bit, instead of going and sitting in traffic and whatnot at the gym, I would just be like, I would have enough grace for myself to go, okay, we're just going to do 2 outdoor walks. Like, it's going to be okay. In fact, we love, going on walks. So this is going to be just fine. And so, with that, it just created a lot less pressure, so that I really enjoyed it. And I laugh now because folks that have never done it are like, oh my God, it's so hard. And I'm like, it's not really hard. Kind of like after, the first, guy broke the 4-minute mile, like now all of a sudden everybody that thought this thing was physically impossible, other people started doing it too. And the same thing here. Like once you complete the challenge one time, I think, after that, you've proven that you can, and it just gets a little bit easier if you let it.
If you learned your lesson, I think.
Correct.
You have to. There has to be takeaway from it. But you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you gain experience at it. You know what you're getting into. I mean, I think I'm on day 3 now, and I didn't go to the gym this morning. I went for a walk because, oh my God, if one more person tells me I'm not a young man anymore, I'm going to punch him in the face. I swear. Like, I get so sick of hearing that. Well, God, you're in your 50s, Flint. You're going to have to start accepting reality at some time. I'm like, people have been telling me that my entire life, and I've been ignoring them. So. However, my knee or my hip tend to scream a little louder.
Correct.
Okay. So, but and it's this journey's been like that for me, going through it this time. It's like, okay, I'm not going in there and I'm not going balls to the wall at the gym because I know I'm going to be there 5 or 6 times this week. And I know that I need to walk, and I know that I need to give my body the time to rest so that I can make it through, and I will still see the results. And I think that's the really interesting point, is that we'll still see the results at the end just because of the consistency. And yes, it is hard the first time you go through it. And I encourage every person out there to go through it. You don't alter it at all. There are different levels to it. But the first time you go through it, it's just going to suck.
Yes.
You don't have the experience for doing it. It's going to be hard. You're not going to be used to it. And then once you finally feel like you get used to it, then you get bored. And once you get through all of that, and then you get good at it, and then it's kind of like birth, and it wears off after a few months. You want to do it again.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm
It's a
using
good
that
analogy.
metaphor. I've never had a child. I don't know what that means, but I've read about it. So did it help you in business? Did it help you stay more focused at business, more organized? Did it help you at work?
Yes and no. So, one of the byproducts of it, especially this time around, is that I have not put this immense amount of pressure on myself to where I've got to be the first guy in and last guy out every day, which I think a lot of us do when we're, trying to prove, in our businesses or whatnot. So I've taken a lot of that pressure off of myself. So, with respect to that, sometimes I think, man, I could have done more, at work or in business. But the one thing that I have noticed from it consistently is that when you have all these disciplines across different, points or areas in your life, it seems to show up really well in business. And so we had a great last couple of months, with, what we're doing. It also has taught me this whole idea of like time to value. And instead of putting a bunch of additional pressure on me to, help grow the business or do whatever it may be, I've been way more willing to lean into third parties to assist with stuff, coaching my team, versus just wearing everything on my shoulders. Because anytime I've done that in life too consistently, you're going to break down at some point. And so, it shows up very well in business for me.
Guess what, brother? You are not Superman.
I've been told.
You are not expected. As a matter of fact, it's a bad idea to do everything as yourself.
Correct.
Those of us that are high achievers, though, and that push and live this lifestyle and live in this world, we tend to have the attitude of, well, screw it, I'll do it myself.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay, I can just get this done faster. And you can create all the SOPs in the world and your plans and your marketing plans and everything else. But we don't feel that anybody's going to implement it as well as we do. My hard realization was realizing that some of my team's 80% was way better than my half-ass paid attention 100%.
Right.
I might be better at coming up with the plan, but the implementation of it, you might as well just screw it because I'm not going to do it.
Yep. Same here.
I need my team around me to make that shit happen.
Yep. No, same here. And I think a lot of us, tell ourselves this fallacy, which is, no one's going to do it as well as me. The one thing that I really leaned into, especially when we were, looking for new talent for our team, is always trying to find people that would do it better than me. That if I can learn something in the interview process from them, and they can elevate what we're doing, like that's what we've been striving for the longest time at this point. Because when I was doing the opposite of that, which was filling a room full of people that just said, yes, sir, and did it my way all the time, we didn't have the growth that we have now. And it just gives me a lot more peace of mind knowing that we have incredible people that do what they do. And I'm just super blessed to have them.
Yeah. What is it? Deadpool said in the movie was planted just a bunch of functional idiots.
That sounds about right.
That's the establishment where people are just around you telling you your idea is great all the time. It's one of my biggest challenges with the updates in ChatGPT is it tells me I'm great all the time. Like I got all the best ideas in the world. It's like, quit gassing me up. Yep. You're supposed to be a robot. Tell me the truth, not what I want to hear. This is the weirdest thing in the world.
Yeah, it can be very people pleasing.
It can be. How that leads to another question. How have you seen AI affecting your business at all? Because everybody seems to think it's the end all be all right now.
No, so there's a really good book out there that I would encourage anyone to read, even if you're not like the tech and marketing space like myself, and it's called The
Mhm.
AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. And one of the biggest premises in the whole thing is that it is not the end all be all. What it is you are the leader or the thought leader, and it is just your thought partner. And so it really helps accelerate ideation, helping you think through, the things that you may not be thinking in your planning. And Jeff has a really great framework for how to converse with AI. That's the CRIT framework. So provide context, establish a role for what you want it to do, let it interview you, and then ask it to interview you one question at a time so it doesn't overwhelm. And then the last thing is task. What are you ultimately asking it to do for you? Which has been super helpful for us. But it's been something that we have leaned so heavily into in business, just because it has been able to accelerate results for us and for our clients at a very, very immense level. And the other thing that I love about it too is, now all of a sudden we're not hugely dependent on massive amounts of headcount to get what we need done. We're just able to then lean into these amazing people that we do have, pay them very well for what they do, because AI has helped give us, more latitude as far as payroll is concerned, and resource going to that. We can put it towards other things.
What you just described is using it as a tool and not as a replacement or some pie in the sky godlike entity like some people look at it, unfortunately. I use it for almost every aspect of all of my businesses. I have not implemented it strongly down into my teams yet because we already run very lean. And the way it gets established into service-based businesses is it eliminates more back office. ChatGPT is not going to go remodel your house for you.
No,
It's not going to go clean your toilets and vacuum your carpet for you.
correct.
So, and a lot of my back office is combined and already runs in automation and things like that. So I love it. I love being back on the tech side of things. I've been out of it for years and years, and it's a learning language model or a real language program robot, for that lack of a better term. Is you can program it to do whatever you want as long as you're specific enough with it. And I think it's an insanely powerful tool, but I also think it's equivalent to taking an AK-47 and putting it in the hands of a monkey for most people.
Yeah, no, you're correct.
It's that powerful, and they have no idea what they're doing. So it's kind of like the internet, as I said for years, with the and there's a yes, I know I'm old. We're on old man energy. So for those of you that are going to come at me in the comments, listen, I remember a time before there was an internet. The sum of human knowledge available at our fingertips, and we use it to look up pictures of half-dressed women and videos of cats. AI has not improved upon that
No.
at all. Some people are going to find ways to race to the bottom and to use it for the most base level possible. That being said, I wanted to ask you, because you do operate in this space very closely, and one thing that's been frustrating me a lot about a lot of people and a lot of things is a huge lack of authenticity.
Right.
From my perspective, it is watching young people have their dreams stolen from them by people that are lying or by people that are showing false hope on the internet or haven't actually accomplished anything, but they learned how to own a swipe account and charge you for stuff. So has that impacted you? And I know you've thought about it just based on your reaction. So how do you make sure that your authenticity comes across?
Yeah. No, great question. So for me specifically, what I have done with it, again, understanding that it is just the thought partner and a tool, I use it even like for my own content just to elevate the context of an idea. So am I a good writer? Yes. However, for me to write something, like I just wrote a short book about a retreat that I went on, and I spent 3 hours basically giving it as much context as I could possibly about the entirety of the experience. Really leaned into a very particular writing style that I, basically wanted the outputs to be like. I had it create the outline and then just went through the story of the 90 hours that I had spent there. And what came out, although it took a total of probably 6 hours, if I would have done myself, would have been half as good and taken 10 times as long. And the whole thing for me with the exercise was to be able to share it with other people and then have them read it, get some value from it, and then see themselves in it as well. It wasn't so much about me talking about my experience, but other people to be able to get a message and something good from it. And so one could say that, well, you didn't write it verbatim, so that doesn't seem super authentic. And my response to that is, no, but all the context and the experience is my own. AI didn't have that experience. I gave it the experience, and it helped craft the message that resonates a lot better and clearer with people than I could have done on my own. And that's just one of the ways that I've leveraged it. But yeah, to your point too, there's also a lot of people that are leveraging it to sound like these great fucking thought partners and thought leaders or whatever, and saying all this gibberish and crap, and like they don't really have any contextual experience around it. And that's something that is, concerning to myself. But by leveraging it, it's helped give me a little bit more time to lean into more human to human connection, versus just being stuck behind a desk all day.
But just because it sounds profound does not mean it is.
Correct.
A bunch of people walking around there sounding like Galinda from Wicked.
Right.
You got to have a daughter or granddaughter for that reference to make sense. That was a great answer, and you touched base on something that people are ready to dismiss so much that either they don't understand or that people doing more than they are is invalidating their excuses that are keeping them where they're at. So they dismiss it, and oh well, that AI must have helped him do that. Well, I'm not going to listen to it anymore. Oh well, that invalidates everything. There's actually a research study about that one of the ways that society continues to devolve is by making a big deal out of pointless arguments. But historically, even if you hand wrote a book, it still went to an editor. It still came back to you for changes. And the editors changed the grammar. They changed the sentence structure. They did all that. I mean, my editor for my books has everyone since the manual, and she's reworking the manual. We've gone back and forth on every project, and it's allowed me to work with her in a much more advanced place. We're actually, instead of working on sentence structure and chapter structure and things like that, all of that's being done in the background by ChatGPT or by whatever AI we happen to be using. And now we can work on actual concepts, the best way for the concept to come across, and the best way to market this concept. So a better use of their time, and hopefully your clients are seeing it with you guys too, because you operate in a similar space, is all of the day-to-day grind. You can now spend more time working on the stuff that you really are talented and good at that AI cannot replace. So I was curious from your perspective on that, because you operate in this digital world and so it's really grossly impacted what you do on a huge level.
And I would say for us, though, all for the positive, where I've watched so many other people, to your point, due to lack of familiarity, write it off and are still continuing to do things with so much respect the same way they were 2 and 3 years ago. And my gosh, like one of our developers would say, like, the world is your oyster. And with AI, it has completely allowed us to transform how we do things internally to increase our ability to have more outputs and better outputs for the people that we serve, albeit by not increasing cost or time or losing of resources internally. So no, I think it's a beautiful thing. There are some downsides to it, though, for sure. I mean, I watched, and you may have some experience with this too, Flint, but I sat in a demo not too long ago for AI agents to answer your phones and do outbound calling and reach back out to old leads and all these kinds of things. And as I sat there and watched this, and it was so amazing at how good it was with such little context, my next thought was, man, call centers are going to be a thing of the past. And if call centers go away, which most of them are in third world countries, like, that is going to be a huge impact to those countries. And how sad is that? But it's literally happening.
Well, I think the buggy whip manufacturers would agree with you. Sometimes industries become outdated. Now,
Correct.
The immediate thought that comes to my head from that, and I agree with you, I think the structure of what we know as a call center is gone. I think AI will completely replace that industry first. However, the rise of virtual assistants and remote login workers, I mean, I know a lot of my VAs have historically been in third world countries. I think that industry will just replace itself with something else. And I mean, life finds a way, to quote Jurassic Park. But people will always do something. That somebody will come up with an idea that will be serviced and will be functional and will be able to move forward. But there will be a bit of a rocky time there. But that should not preclude us taking advantage of the greatest innovation. Some people would say the greatest innovation in modern history. and it's huge. I mean, it's massive. Now, I'm going to give you another downside to this, and I'm going to give the listeners a warning. Please do not take our conversation here today and go sign up for the latest Guru's AI class that they're selling for $1,500. Because 6 months ago, they were telling you how to be a good blue collar worker. And 6 months before that, they were telling you how to be a good real estate investor. They're selling a solution with your problem wrapped around it in a pretty wrapped paper. Find somebody that knows what they're talking about. And with AI, it's so new. Everybody's kind of just throwing information out there. There's a few people that I follow that really understand how to program and understand how to use it. And the ironic thing is they don't charge for most of what they're teaching at this point. The other this is the only tool I've ever worked with that you can get it to teach you how to use it internally. Just ask it and have it start teaching you different ways and then practicing and trying the different things. Look something up, have it just not necessarily have a conversation with it, but log in and say, what's the best way to use you? Here's my industry. What should I do? How should I ask you to do this? How should I ask you to do that? And after a while, you'll get better at using it. But don't outsource all your critical thinking to this, or you'll end up with some really interesting creative errors. That especially in articles, like you've gotten to the point, I'm sure you have too, Dustin, where you can tell if an article is completely AI written that somebody didn't go through and proofread.
Right.
And sometimes it's kind of comical what gets thrown in there and people don't realize. So you can see for that. Have you seen this to start to impact any of the pricing in what you're doing, or just has it added value and you've been able to keep the pricing the same?
Yeah. So one of the things that we started doing this year, and I'm not going to, unfortunately for the listeners, name this super amazing third-party entity, but with respect to local SEO and the map pack, and then how people show up in Google's SGE or AI overview, we were able to, through an awesome mentorship and some access to a really great tool, for our clients, give them something that was doing 10 times the work that we were, to get them exponential result very, very fast for a fraction of what we used to charge, which is amazing. And it also freed up our SEOs from an immense amount of work that also took a lot of creativity. And not all SEOs are very creative. They're very linear in their thinking. And so when we were able to take, a bunch of this work off their plate and have them focus more so on strategy, getting more and more content out, those types of things, the impact internally has been that we don't have to continue to necessarily scale a team in droves, which has a good, benefit to the business. But also for us, we've got a great introductory offer for a small business that doesn't have a ton of resource, which is money to invest in marketing. And we can turn around and say, hey, we've got this great thing that'll do X, Y, Z for you. Here's how we do this thing. Oh, and it's only this much a month. And they're like, wow, that's crazy. Like, how do you do all that stuff for so little? And it's like, and we tell them like, hey, we hugely lean into AI and automation to do this. There's training on the front end. There's obviously human touch points with, reviewing everything and whatnot, but this is the byproduct of it. And it's been super helpful for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. When this is over, I want to do an introduction to a buddy of mine who's an AI developer, used to be military security.
Okay.
I think you two would have a lot in common. I think it'd be a good relationship there.
Yeah, I'd love to meet him.
Let's switch. I love talking about this, but there's a couple things that I want to ask that I really want to get out there. So let's switch gears for a minute. How long have you been in business for yourself? How long have you been fully in business for yourself?
5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you start it as a side hustle, or did you just end everything, your day job, and then go into business for yourself? How did you do it?
No, in other business that I was in as well, we just saw a huge need in this space. In the marketing space, there was a lot of things that we were not very happy with that we were getting from service providers. A lot of smoke and mirrors, all the bullshit that I'm sure you've been through, as well. So Michael, my business partner, and I were just like, man, like, we're good at building teams. We're pretty smart guys, and we're really good at building businesses. So if we can just take all of these components and create this new thing, should be a great time. First year was really just proof of concept for us, but I was doing it full time. And then second year, still maintained the commitment on doing this 100%. It wasn't until the third year where I made the stupid commitment. Stupid's not a good word to use. It's not very self-serving, but made this interesting commitment to buy into this secondary business of mine, and that's when the wheels kind of fell off, so to speak. But yeah, it was all in from day one.
Gotcha. What's the biggest mistake you made outside of that third year? Non-stupid, not great commitment.
Biggest mistake, not to lack of investing in myself.
It's amazing how often I hear that.
Yeah. I thought I had it all figured out, Flint. And
Right.
and I was the furthest thing from it. And I think, this year was a very different year because instead of just investing in, more marketing coaches or whatever it may be, I decided to make an investment on really my relationship with myself and, hired an amazing, like, calls himself a wealth coach, not to the extent that most people would. They hear wealth and they think money. His four cores were what I had led with initially, which were that impact, fulfillment, relationships, and revenue. And he said, at the end of the day, like so many of us, we want to be safe, but also we just want to know that what we do matters and that we matter. And for whatever reason, that just really resonated with me. And I was just like, yeah, at the end of the day, like I want to know that I matter. That what I do for business or whatnot matters, and as a father and a husband. And so I pivoted and made an investment in that. And it's been such an amazing thing versus the alternative of that, which was in that third year, going more so down this hustle culture route, which was just, you got to do more in every area of life. And when I pivoted away from that, it made a big difference.
That's a great answer. And I try and ask that question because the number one question we get in every interview, it seems like, is what's the best decision you made? Or if you could go back and tell yourself one thing, what would it be? Or this or that. I want to know how you screwed stuff up because that's where I learned my biggest lessons. My mistakes often taught me more, always, not often, they always taught me more than my wins. Yeah. And ironically enough, they always had, as long as I handled them with credibility, they increased my credibility and my presence in the market because, well, this guy he obviously knows what's going on because he can screw stuff up and still come out winning. Okay. So that's my strongest referrals are clients that I've made mistakes with rather than the ones that everything went perfectly. They give me better referrals and people believe them more. Yeah. So now with that in mind, with your answer to that in mind, if you were able to go back, what's the first thing that you would tell your younger self? Just the first thing. Because we know what you would say is, what would you tell yourself if you were younger? Yeah, invest in yourself because that's what you just said. But what's the first thing that you would tell yourself if you had the opportunity?
It's going to sound super cheesy, but you're going to be okay. And the goals and aspirations and things that you're trying to attain, to give yourself the self-worth and satisfaction that you're looking for, you'll never find in the pursuit of those things.
I don't think that sounds cheesy at all. I suppose it could be cheesy, but I don't think it sounds that way. One thing I used to tell my mentors was like, man, why are you talking about dreams and goals and this and that? Now, I sought these guys out. I wanted them to teach me how to be successful. And every single one of them would talk about dreams and talk about goals and everything else. I'm like, no, I want the good stuff, man. Don't give me that mumbo jumbo, that freaking pie in the sky, head in the clouds kind of stuff. Give me the good stuff. And then after a while, I finally decided to believe them. And all of a sudden, well, wait a minute, that was the good stuff the whole time.
Yeah.
So we can only understand things from our perspective of where we're at right now.
Correct.
So now, not last question necessarily, but last question along this question thread is, out of everything you've learned, what do you think, or what do you think would be the most valuable piece of information for you to pass along to everybody else? What would you like everybody else to know?
Man, that's deep because I have been on such a learned journey this year. I think that the thing that I would want my family or closest to me or even a complete stranger to know is that regardless of what you see or the world shows you, especially in social media, a lot of that isn't real. And not to leverage platforms or things like that for this validation and stuff that you think you need, especially when it's a bunch of complete strangers most of the time. Really lean into being present where you're at and with your family and the things that matter most to you, whether that be team members, your church, your relationship with your wife, your kids, whatever. Because what I have realized, and we talked about this a little bit the first time, especially about my rules for how my team communicates with me and my wife. And if my wife texts me, I may not respond, through the entirety of the day, but if she calls, I'll answer right away. And vice versa. If I'm at home and my team texts me, I may not respond right away, but if they call, I know it's an emergency. But I've really just leaned into this idea of just be where you're at and be thankful for all things in life that are right in front of you. And sometimes that means the not so great stuff too, because to your point in those lessons, that's where we really learn, and we don't experience the lessons and the wisdom from them unless we do fall and have some difficult times. So, just be where you're at.
I like that. There's a lot to unpack there in that statement. And I hope everybody listening here, because that statement will not get edited at all. I hope everybody listening here takes the time to realize the depth and the amount of emotional maturity it took to get to be able to say that and to mean it. Part of that comes with experience. Part of that comes with age. I'm much more patient now than I was when I was younger. I don't feel the need to correct every idiot on the planet. If you're going to be stupid half the time, I'm just going to let you.
Yep.
If you're going to make some mistakes, you're about to learn, boy, and I'm not going to help.
Right. No, and there's a lot of wisdom in that too, because I think for years, and you may have done this yourself, but I was so focused on being right all the time. And it wasn't until earlier this year, this has been shared with me two different ways. The first way I heard this was there's a difference between being right and winning. And you can be right all the time and lose all the time. And I was noticing that around me in a lot of relationships, that at the end of the day, when I had to be right all the time, I ended up losing a lot of people and relationships in that process because I made them feel stupid. And then how it was reframed for me this year, which was just so beautiful, but so simple. There's a difference between being right and being happy. And I got into an exchange recently with a former team member, and she was just so fixated on this idea of being right and sharing a lesson in all of it. And I was at the end of the day, I just said, look, I'm not sure what this looks like or what you're trying to prove in this moment. And I appreciate you for sharing this, with me, that you trust me enough that you felt that you could. I'm just not open to receiving it right now. And for that, I hope you have a great evening. And we can chat about this at some other point if you would like, but I'm good. And I could have, what old me would have done would have just fucking brought in the B-2 bombers and just went off. But I was like, there's just no point to it. So I'd rather just be happy and move on.
Yes. I think there's a quote from Keanu Reeves about that. It's made to be comical, but Mel Robbins calls it the let them philosophy. Yep. And it's all really the same thing. This applies in relationships too, like personal relationships. I know in working with Des and working through things, for a long time I wanted to be right, and we end up fighting about stuff that you're in the middle of the argument. You're like, what am I doing? I just don't care. Why am I even doubled down on this? Because I don't care one way or the other. And not apathy, like I don't care about her, but the topic that we were disagreeing on, I didn't really give a rip if I was right about it or not. It was irrelevant. It wasn't going to matter a week from now. And this really came home. We have another couple that we're friends with and we spend time with, and not in a mentor relationship, but it's funny how you almost always end up there in front of the people or around the people that need you there. So we had no idea they were having a little bit of challenges and hadn't really shared those with us up to that point. But after they did share a little bit of what was going on, we continued to spend the rest of the day with them and watching them go back and forth at each other and this and that. And I pulled the guy aside and I was like, well, why did you insist that you were correct there? And he goes, well, because I was. I said, okay, well, what did it hurt if you'd have just let it go? Why did you have to be right and make yourself right to her in front of everybody else? What if you had just said okay and walked away? Would anything have changed? He goes, well, yeah, we wouldn't be mad at each other right now. I said, okay, aside from that, would anything else have changed? Well, no, not really. I said, would you still have been right? Well, yeah. I said, would she have known that? Well, yeah, as soon as she went and did A, B, or C or whatever it was, she would have known I was right. I said, so you both would have gotten the same amount of information and neither of you would have been mad at each other at that point, right? Fuck you, Flynn. You struck a nerve when you get that response.
Yeah.
So you're right. Being right and being happy is huge. We can be right and not have to admit it. We could be right and not hammer it home to somebody else. Okay. Which is just the freedom to be right is allowing other people the freedom to be wrong. But oftentimes, sometimes I've really believed I was right, used this exact philosophy and found out later I wasn't. Boy, then I would have looked like a schmuck if I had continued. So it works both ways. It does, but it brings peace. It brings peace to a relationship, but it also brings peace to our mind. And it also allows us to free up some more mental real estate to spend time on things that really do matter, because we're not focused on beating other people up or finding ways to prove that we're right. The truth doesn't require an explanation. It simply is. It doesn't require belief. You can believe the sky is green all day long. It's still going to be called blue by everybody else on the planet. It doesn't matter what you believe. So that level of peace is something, I don't know if it's required to be old to come to that or not, but man, my life's been a hell of a lot more peaceful since I came to that realization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you believe we've been talking for almost an hour?
No, that's when you know it's good stuff though. When time just
It
seems
is.
to kind of come pack itself.
It is. I want to ask you. I want to ask you one more thing, and I think this will probably take us into the hours.
Yeah.
You have a picture of the man in the arena above your head.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that up there? Most of us know what it says. If we don't, pause it, go look it up, go read it. It's a quick read. You can listen to it too if you want, but and then come back because his answer is going to be relevant to that, and I haven't even heard it yet.
Yeah. So why do I have that? With respect to everything that is in this office or on the shelves behind me, I have just wanted to fill it with things that I have positive sentiment around as reminders. So just next to that, I have this cutesy little Lego thing that was the best Father's Day gift I was ever given. And it just basically says, I'm stronger than the Hulk. I'm, more fearless than Batman, all these different things. And I just love that thought that my son thinks so highly of me with that. But the man in the arena, no, it's just been a, kind of a representation of my life. And so many of us, men and women, but to me, I get to choose to show up and be in that arena and fight the good fight every day. And I think one of the biggest challenges for myself that I have been fighting for so many years is the man that's in here, in my heart and in my soul and in my head more often than not. So, with that and in respect to all this other great stuff I have in here, it's just hell, even all the tattoos on my body, they're all just reminders of a lesson or a story that I need to see.
It's great. It's great. It reminds me of one of the biggest supposed insults that I got out of the entire podcast was a guy went online, did an entire stitch about how I was quoting John Wick and all these other movies. And I was like, well, of course I am. I'm covered in pop culture. Yes, you got it. You're trying to insult me. And I sent the dude a thank you. I think he ultimately ended up taking it because he was trying to troll me. And I'm like, dude, you're the only one that gets it. This is perfect. So
That's
we
funny.
tell our story through the energy of the things around us.
Yeah.
And those of us that like body art, we usually we'll draw our pictures on ourselves just to make that work. So there was one more thing I wanted to ask you, and now it's escaping me. Okay, yeah, I do remember what. You've reached a really different spot than you were in the last couple of years, the last 2 years that we talked. I mean, you're in a very different headspace. And I know how we all are. That's the same to speak. I had a vague idea of what I wanted out of the Old Man Energy podcast, and now Old Man Energy is anybody that's ever heard me speak understands what that means at this point. So we've both done a good job of establishing ourselves. What was it like for you when you realized that you've leveled up and that the level of performers that you now associate with have thought this way the entire time while you struggled to get there?
Oh, man. I mean, it's euphoric in some capacity when you finally start to get to that place, but honestly, it's also sad at the same time to me because there are lessons right now that I share with my amazing stepson that I'm like, man, I wish I would have had a father figure that was instilling these things in me versus what the world was around me, which was this constant, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, but you've got to do more. Everything it was just about doing really great at everything I did so I could get the external validation and hopefully that would make me feel good inside. And it never did. And now that I have, work with and associate with so many amazing humans, like the amount of peace and happiness that they have most of the time internally for me has really just been the ultimate goal and one of the things that I've been really trying to deliver to my kids and those that I have near and dear to me because I just think that's ultimately such a beautiful place to get to. And so many people, unfortunately, they're just dead inside and coasting through life. And to me, that is the saddest thing to see. I mean, I started reading an excerpt from this book that I'm considering buying, and it's called The Black Book of Power. And as I was listening to the audio, in chapter 1, it was basically just going over how we wake up first thing in the day and we're just mindlessly grabbing our phones and going through notifications from people we really don't give a shit about. But for some reason in our head that matters. And that, basically a long story short, we're just on autopilot all the time. And I'm like, no, that's not. So when I see these other amazing people that I aspire to be like, they're truly connected with their families and they truly love their kids. And it's not lip service and they just put cool shit online. Like when you actually get to witness these people really living their life and loving their life, like that is such a beautiful thing.
And that comes right back to authenticity. And I can't end it on anything better than that, other than we're going to put all of Dustin's contact information down in the bottom. Go follow Dustin on all social media. He hosts the Life by the Horns podcast. He owns the Best Life Group and puts out good, solid content every day, or if not every day, often enough that I see it every day. So
Awesome.
always a pleasure having you with us, Dustin. I appreciate you coming on here and taking the time. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Flynn.
Thanks, guys. We love y'all. Peace.